it's all happening by itself.
Yeah, always.
Yeah. But something it's still reacting sometimes, like when something is triggered, like some reaction, like fear. If fear triggered, then something is reacting and going in a loop when this fear, just fear. So if I, for example, call you now,
Yeah,
it's something, it's like beginning to inside.
yeah,
It's not so, it's very uncomfortable.
yeah.
It's like, I don't know why. It's like, it's very nice to talk to you, and it's most beautiful. Non-duality is most beautiful
Yeah.
subject.
It is.
But it's coming here, and it's like,
Yeah. But anything that you see of yourself, you can't really see. So anything the person sees about itself, it can't really see. So it believes that it can see its fear. It believes that it can see the side effects of the fear. But who can see that? Who the person or what can see that is something that's making judgment on that. And so it's another separation. So there's the fear, and then there's the not wanting the fear, and then there's the person which is looking at the fear. So there's all these separations, which is perfectly okay, but none of them indicate anything. We often think that the fear or the reaction to the fear can be seen by something, but it can never be seen. All of the, or even the one that feels like it's watching the fear or watching the response to it, is simply an appearance happening independent of all the other reactions that have happened. You can never see really the character or the what's happening. It's just all happening.
yeah.
Sometimes
Okay.
when I meet people that are into non-duality, they've folded themselves into so many um, in so many positions. Like they get into psychology and they psychoanalyze themselves, and they believe they can see this and that about themselves, but there's nobody that can see anything. You can't see yourself. There's simply life happening. It's like psychoanalyzing the window, going up to the window and saying, "Window, why are you always a window?" It's obviously fear of, like, there's nothing actually there. And in one way, sometimes when you do these things and things are looked at, sometimes it does relax ideas, but then new ideas pop up. Like really, you can't, like relaxing ideas are nice, but they're just ideas and dynamics appearing. And the freedom is when that energy collapses that this is happening to someone. And neurosis could carry on after that. Who knows what could carry on after that? It's so unique to each body mind mechanism.
Yeah. Yeah. So
We get so caught up on ourselves.
yeah. Yeah. It's it's all the time okay. It's just when this like shaking, it's coming. It's like I know what is it actually. It's like inside in the heart. It's like something.
Yeah.
And
but that doesn't necessarily imply separation. That's simply a feeling appearing, and that doesn't mean that that will stop appearing. It's so brilliant, this subject. It includes everything. And if the body-mind mechanism is a nervous body-mind mechanism or a shy body-mind mechanism, and it's always been put in situations where it's got to be an extrovert, then fear will appear. But the freedom always is that it's appearing in boundlessness for no one. There's nobody there which is in relationship to the fear. The fear is just like the wind, the anxiety. All these things can still appear. It's just like the sun, the light, the everything. And then another separation happens and looks at it and says, I shouldn't be fearful, or this will go with liberation.
Yeah, it's something like maybe it will disappear.
Yeah.
And something is like,
yeah. And it's simply appearing.
Do you still have these reactions, like something is triggering, like body, it's making like shaking or something? Do you have these reactions now?
I'm sure I do. I can't specifically think of something at the moment, but I'm sure I do. Every time I go on the airplane, I have to go for a poop, and I'm sure that's out of fear.
Yeah, I'm very nervous.
Like as soon as the seatbelts go on and the airplane takes off and you can't get out of your seat, I always need the toilet. And I'm sure that's like a reaction, like a fear, like my heart beats very fast when we take off and things. So,
Yeah.
but the freedom of it all is that it's not happening to anyone. That's the true freedom. That fear, that anxiety, or the discomfort isn't something that's in relationship with life. It's another thing appearing in life. It is life, but it's not in. That's not you. That's in relationship with life. That we take that to be who we are.
Yeah.
That we
If
think,
somebody's seeing this.
yeah, and we think that's who we are. We're that anxiety or we're that feeling of discomfort, and it all becomes so incredibly close. And it becomes like a cage, because this illusion of self has sucked in all these dynamics which it believes it is, and they're no longer just appearing. They're suddenly something which is in relationship with life, and I'm someone that's scared, and it feels like who you are is in here. I'm someone that's unhappy. I'm someone that doesn't want to go on the aeroplane. Where really there's the dynamics appearing, and they're appearing in the same way that the aeroplane appeared, or that the other human appeared, or that it's all it. Nothing implies anybody. And the body-mind mechanism is going to have very specific wiring and very specific reactions. But that isn't somebody. That's an appearance happening. But that energy, that illusion of self has claimed that and been me. That's me. I'm nervous.
Yeah, something that doing this. But it's happening in this. In this. This. You know?
In what? I don't know what you're pointing to.
It's although my body is shaking, I know it's still here. I'm still here. It's always everything. It's like including. It doesn't matter because something it's not moving. Something it's still here. Something knows it's okay. Something knows it's okay. And not like getting depressed because of that, like before when you're very afraid and think, oh, why it's happening. But now it's more like it's happening, but it's go away pretty fast.
Yeah.
But it's happening.
But even that knowledge of yourself,
it's still bullshit, right?
Yeah, it's like it's even taking that on board. It is as it is.
It's very difficult to talk about this, right?
Yeah, because there isn't anybody there. So really, conversations, we've made conversations, like particularly Western society, so psychological, but really, there isn't anybody there. So you can't, like all this analytics that we do of ourselves, always looking at ourselves, and I'm like this and I'm like that, and I do this and I do that, and that's so impossible. It's just a happening. It's a happening. It's very hard. Like life, the description of the person was only meant for practical use. It was only meant as a reference point to be able to talk about things. And then when it starts being like, I'm like this or I'm like that, it's a little bit confusing because there isn't actually somebody there.
It's like a delusion, like some drug.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's very beautiful though.
Yeah, it is. I was thinking about something, oh no, I've forgotten. There was something I was going to say about it, but I forgot.
Yeah, me too, I forgot. I forgot everything we talked about.
Oh yeah, I was remembering, like, sometimes when I'm doing talks, I don't always like talking with everyone beforehand or in the breaks, because my personality, even though everyone can't believe it, is a little bit introvert, and it doesn't really like being the center of attention. It doesn't mind doing it at talks when I'm sitting at the front and we're talking specifically at non-duality. But sometimes with my organizers, I asked to sit in another room, and one recently said why, and I said, oh well, I'm a bit shy, or I'm not exactly an extrovert. I prefer just to give the talk. And she turned around and she said, well, that's definitely ego. Shyness is definitely ego. Like a, if the, like a, I can't remember how she labeled it or phrased it. And I think that's so psychological and so kind of like, it's not like that waking up. Like the body-mind mechanisms, we have all these ideas that the body-mind mechanism will become this perfect body-mind mechanisms that will have no preference or no desire or no way of behaving. But it's actually the end of it being the center that's experiencing life. But it doesn't mean that the body-mind mechanism changes in any way. And to even look at yourself like that and say, oh, it's all ego, to look and define what's ego or what isn't ego is such big illusion, because you can't look at the personality and see enlightenment. It's got nothing to do with the personality. It's like believing that if the light changed color, then it would be enlightened. Like then it would be more non-dual. Or if the walls changed from being smooth to being gravelly, it would be more enlightened. And so we are always looking ourselves and thinking, if I'm less like this, or if I'm less like that, and this is ego, and this isn't ego, and this should be, or this shouldn't be. And that's such an illusion, because there's nothing actually there. There's just responses happening in each moment. And those responses don't indicate someone. So these body-mind mechanisms have different ways in which they respond, and their response in every moment is a result of everything that's ever happened. It's the most profound response that ever happens. Even if it's like a really neurotic, angry one, it's taken everything that ever happened and ever gonna happen for that response to happen. It's really beautiful. And then we look at it and we think, oh, that's not enlightened, or this is enlightened. And that's nothing to do with what I'm talking about. Non-duality is the end of the behavior of the person and the dynamics of the person being the center and being a separate object from everything else. That those behaviors and those ways of being and that thinking pattern is something solid inside here. And the world is something separate outside there.
Yeah. Yeah. Disclaiming this.
And then we try and wake ourselves up, and we believe the waking up is some form of reconditioning ourselves, or psychoanalysis, or that we could possibly see it. Who would even see that waking up? Who would even see what's enlightened or not? It would just be another fragment talking about another fragment. It can't ever do that. You can't ever talk about enlightenment within the dream. It is everything that is and no one thing, and it always is.
And you don't know what is coming from what. It's like you don't know where it's begin everything.
And there's really no ego. There's no such thing as the ego. That was only invented in order to be able to talk about things. And in the way, the idea of ego is just like Christianity with the idea of heaven and hell, or the devil and God. It's just another way that the person stays alive and in opposites. I have an ego and I've got to get rid of the ego. I have certain dynamics and I've got to get rid of them. Or in Christianity, I've got behaviors that I mustn't be and behaviors that I must be. And we really believe that that's actually talking about something. But it's got nothing to do with non-duality, all of these things. You really can't see egoic behaviors. Who would see that? That's another appearance coming and going and talking about nothing. It really doesn't mean anything.
It's always here. It's always the same, actually.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I don't know. Yeah. I'm drinking tea too now. It's apricot.
So in the drinking of the tea, there's a sensation of the drinking. And that's all there is. It's not actually happening for someone. And that's true love. It sounds crazy, but there's a sensation.
Yeah.
And that's it. In the human body, my mechanism, this illusion starts so that I'm feeling that. When really that's all there is the feeling. And there's no difference between the felt and the feeling. So the tea and the feeling, it's just one and the same thing. It's the same with every thought, with every dynamic that appears, with every scenery that appears. That's real love. We always want to make love to this certain person, and we believe that making love, we want to find this right person, and that will be like making love to existence. And we fail to see that in every moment life is making love to itself. That is so intimate when it's not for someone. Just the drinking of the tea.
Always tea.
Yeah. And you can't die, because there's nothing that could possibly die. There's only ever what's happening.
It's just another form.
There's only ever what is, and what is the true nature of everything, not somebody that's in relationship to what is. That's the illusion that what is playing for God knows what reason. It's not any
just
particular.
For fun.
Just because, just because it can.
Felicia's sleeping.
Yeah.
I don't have animals now, but I used to have a cat. She died like 1 year ago. Suddenly she passed. But
They're such a joy, animals.
Just her body. She's just maybe a flower now. A big flower there. Suddenly. So everything is just changing. Yeah. We will too do something else. Our bodies. So just tea, nothing else. and you and tea. You can visit Bergen maybe one day.
Visit where?
Norway, Bergen.
Am I?
You can visit Bergen maybe one day.
In Norway?
Norway, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I went to Norway in the summer, to Oslo.
Yeah, I heard from Nonduality group in Norway. So Bergen, it's like coast,
Oh, yeah?
and it's raining always, almost.
Oh, yeah. Like Holland.
Yeah, next. Yeah, so you live in Cheese, right?
Yeah, and a cheese, yeah.
Yeah, good. It's good.
Oh, well, thank you, Maria. Nice to speak with you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lisa.
My pleasure. Bye.
Bye.